III and Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland are entering the room, accompanied by the President of the Chamber of Deputies, Mr. Lorenzo Fontana, and of the Senate, Mr. Ignazio La Russa.
Maestà,
Your Majesties, the King and Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Mr. President of the Senate, ministers, ambassadors, fellow parliamentarians, authorities, dear guests. The United Kingdom and Italy are tied by a history of friendship and mutual admiration, which is century-old. The relations between our countries are predicated on a deep-seated trust in the values of freedom and of democracy, which are at the strongest in the parliamentary institutions. Italian people still remember today the visit made by the late Queen Elizabeth II, whom we all remember with great fondness. the visit which she made here in Rome in the year 2000 on the occasion of the Jubilee year inaugurated by John Paul II. Today, this is the year of the new Jubilee, and the Italian Parliament is delighted to welcome Your Majesty Charles III, the first British monarch to take the floor in our plenary hall. And I am particularly delighted to be able to extend my greetings on behalf of all my fellow parliamentarians to Her Majesty the Queen, Camilla. On this very day when Your Majesties are celebrating your 20th wedding anniversary. Today's visit is a further step in the path that our countries have embarked upon, and which is unwinding under the Jubilee theme of hope, this hope which stretches an invisible thread from Rome through the Channel, tying our nations together. At the very origin of these values lies the Magna Carta of 1215, a milestone in the European constitutional systems in order to defend individual freedoms and prevent all forms of abuse by those in power. Driven by the desire for civil change, Italy and the United Kingdom have embarked upon a shared path of growth and progress. The histories of our countries have crossed paths in different areas of human knowledge. Our men of letters and philosophers have always engaged in a fruitful dialogue. So we've seen an interweaving of ideas and changes in universities back in the Middle Ages with the utopian suggestions in the thoughts of Tommaso Campanella and St. Thomas More, and in the religious and spiritual tensions which inspired Il Paradiso, the Paradise by Dante Alighieri, and The Paradise Lost by John Milton. And moving along, we have the plays by William Shakespeare, who chose my very hometown of Verona to set as the setting of one of his most famous works, Romeo and Juliet. And modern science has its two noble fathers, Galileo and Newton, whose revolutions marked a watershed moment in the way in which we conceive the world and the universe. These are relations which are close and profound indeed, and have continued to this day, reaching out to all areas of our life in society. Italy and the United Kingdom exist in an international dimension, but it is necessary for them to cooperate, even to preserve their own identity and civilizations. I wish to recall in this connection the appeal made by His Majesty Charles III, then the Prince of Wales, when he spoke in the hall of the She-Wolf here at Palazzo Montecitorio. He said, "It is to our children and grandchildren that we must look if we wish to make the right choices for the future of mankind." Today's world is a very complex experience. If we consider the Ukraine and the Middle East, it is therefore necessary to have a shared understanding of our world, which is focused on collective security and freedom in the area of trade and in the pursuit of peace. More than 500,000 Italians live, work, and study in the United Kingdom, and the prosperity of our trade relations is reflected in our trade volumes. In fact, in 2024, they exceeded 35 billion euros. Our countries are united in the Atlantic Alliance as well, and in that setting, in that forum, they can guarantee stability and peace in different international quadrants. Moreover, we cooperate within the G7 format, which enhances, of course, the parliamentary dimension as well. And I wish to say that I had the opportunity of meeting with the Speaker of the House of Commons, and we had the chance to consolidate an authentic friendship. So the protagonists in history, that's who we are. We cannot afford, therefore, to be spectators of our future. This is a world characterized by international tensions, and there are new and demanding challenges and problems. As they get worse, of course, they can result in troubling consequences for the destiny of all of us. It is up to us, therefore, to cooperate more intensely in a loyal and constructive manner. with those who share our values. I wish to recall with sincere emotion Saint Carlo Acutis, who will be canonized on the 27th of April, a young witness of our time who unites yet again Italy and the United Kingdom, as he was born and baptized in London. In his short life, Carlo Acutis was able to show us the path for us to follow. He said, "Our goal must be the infinite and not the finite." These are authentic words. They are full of hope, and they give us the courage we need as we look to the future. I again extend my warm welcome to Your Majesties, and I now ask the President of the Senate of the Republic to take the floor. Your Majesty, Charles III, Your Majesty, Queen Camilla, it is a great honor indeed for me to be able to extend my greetings on behalf of the Senate of the Italian Republic during this ceremony, which is a celebration of the deep ties between Italy and the United Kingdom. I will try not to repeat some of the points already made masterfully by President Fontana. In any case, I wish to yet again mention the deep friendship between our nations and between our peoples. This friendship is rooted in history, in a steady and continued flow of cultural affinities, social integration, economic exchanges, which have characterized our relations with the United Kingdom. All we need to do is think of the many men of letters and artists. I won't mention their names again. You already have, dear colleague, and they have all loved Italy. Of course, I'm referring to the ones who were inspired by Italy, Byron, Keats, and Dickens, just to name a few, and other great Italians, the fathers of our homeland, Mazzini, for example, who created a school for the people and who lived in England for such a long time, and Garibaldi as well. Not everyone knows that there is a British football team that won the Champions League, Nottingham Forest, and they wear a red jersey, and we use the color red to remember Garibaldi, in honor of Garibaldi. And we also had, of course, Guglielmo Marconi, and as the others, he saw in the land and in the culture of the United Kingdom a very important point of reference. Now, our world is very complex. It is continually evolving and changing, as we can easily see at the moment, and there is tension, there are conflicts, there are disruptions of our traditional order. We see this on a daily basis, and it is important to enhance the solidity of the very special relations between our peoples and our nations. We must strengthen our bilateral cooperation at all levels, governmental level, parliamentary, economic. My dear President Fontana and Your Majesty, what does this mean? It means that we should be able to face the difficulties to the best of our ability and transform into opportunities moments of crisis. And of course, we know that there are many crises ongoing at the moment, and there are multiple challenges, therefore, that we are facing, starting with the common commitment for stability and international security. In the past and still today, we have had joint operations involving the armed forces of Italy and the United Kingdom. In fact, they've operated jointly in many very sensitive theaters. And I'm also thinking of other challenges, environmental security, the management and governance of migration and economies and trade, the trade dynamics. And these are all areas in which I'm convinced that it is ever more important to have cooperation between Italy and the United Kingdom. Now, bilateral relations, of course, must be predicated on on human capital and in material capital. We need to learn how to enhance this. We must promote exchanges between our civil societies to enable youth to move around, mobility of students, and we must increase our university and scientific and cultural agreements between our two countries. This is a mutual commitment, and of course it can be facilitated by the fact that there are, I'm sure you know, more than 500,000 Italians living in the United Kingdom. This is a very large and dynamic community and is well integrated in the social and economic fabric. in the United Kingdom. I would also like to underscore the very high symbolic value of this very prestigious presence of Your Majesties in this plenary hall here in the Parliament. And it is the first time, in fact, that a British monarch has addressed this Parliament. And this isn't only a tribute to the homeland which established the modern parliamentary systems, but it is also an invitation to reaffirm the central role of legislative assemblies in democratic systems. So thank you very much for your presence and welcome to Italy. Presidents of the Senate and of the Chamber of Deputies, members of government, senators, deputies, authorities, ladies and gentlemen. I am enormously honored to have been invited here today, and I am deeply grateful to President Mattarella for his kind invitation to come to Italy on a state visit. It is hugely important for the Queen and for myself to return to Italy for our first visit after the coronation. It is even more special for us both, as today is our 20th wedding anniversary. Moreover, I hope I am not spoiling the language of Dante. So badly as to never again be invited to Italy.
To have been asked to speak to you all this afternoon. The first time that a British sovereign has addressed the entire Italian Parliament, this fundamental democratic institution. Italy is, as I hope you know, a country very dear to my heart and that of the Queen, as it is to so many of our countrymen and women. I have made 18 official visits over the past 40 years to the Bel Paese. It has been one of the pleasures of my life to come to know this irresistible country. And from Turin to Palermo, Verona to Naples, Florence to Trieste, I have learned a little more about this nation and have come to admire it even more. Like any old friend, I have been with you at happier moments and sadder moments in your national life. For instance, I will never forget my visit to Venice with the Queen in 2009, where we saw the magnificently restored La Fenice Opera House, or to Amatrice in 2017 in the aftermath of that tragic earthquake. So I am here today, ladies and gentlemen, with one purpose: to reaffirm the deep friendship between the United Kingdom and Italy, and to pledge to do all in my power to strengthen that friendship even further in the time that is granted to me as King. Our ties go back over 2 millennia to those ancient Roman visitors who arrived on our windswept shores. It was the Romans who gave Britons the idea of putting a king's head on coins, so I'm especially grateful to them. My own coronation in Westminster Abbey took place on the famous Cosmati pavement laid by British and Italian craftsmen in 1268, a shared foundation indeed. And another foundation in which Britain is proud to have played its part is the support our country lent to the unification of Italy. As Garibaldi landed near Marsala in Sicily in May 1860, 2 Royal Navy warships stood watch. Garibaldi was, as you know, hugely admired in Britain. When he visited in 1864 to thank the British people for their support, Garibaldi mania gripped the entire country. Some 500,000 people came to greet him in London. There was even a biscuit named after Garibaldi, the ultimate mark of British esteem. Many of the heroes of Italy's unification, including Cavour and Mazzini, spent time in the United Kingdom. Through the centuries, ever since, Italian merchants docked in Southampton in the 14th century, and moneylenders from northern Italy settled in the appropriately named Lombard Street in London. Our peoples have traded with each other, inspired each other, learnt from each other. From the wonders of the Renaissance to the Industrial Revolution, to scientific pioneers such as Guglielmo Marconi, who refined his genius in the UK before transforming the world. Nearly a third of Shakespeare's plays were set here in Italy, just as Italian artists have drawn inspiration from the Bard. And we have benefited hugely from your influence over what we wear, what we drink, and what we eat. I can only hope you will forgive us for occasionally corrupting your wonderful cuisine. We do so, I promise you, with the greatest possible affection. So we are 2 peoples and 2 nations whose stories are deeply intertwined, including, of course, with that of our European continent. We are both, after all, European countries. Yesterday, I laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Inscribed on its marble are words recalling the British forces who fought alongside Italian forces in the First World War. In a few weeks' time, we will mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. We will remember the terrible price of war and of the precious gift of peace. At Anzio and Monte Cassino last year, and in Sicily the year before, we have remembered the British and Allied servicemen who gave their lives in the liberation of this country 80 years before. Including more than 45,000 from Commonwealth nations and almost 30,000 from the United Kingdom. My grandfather, King George VI, visited British and Allied troops in July and August 1944, staying at an HQ near Arezzo. Tomorrow, in Ravenna, as King of the United Kingdom and of Canada, I will have the great honor of commemorating the 80th anniversary of the liberation of that province, together with President Mattarella, in which British and Canadian forces played a key role. And as head of the Commonwealth, it will be my signal privilege to recall the indispensable role played by many troops from the Commonwealth as well as other allied nations. And we remember too the terrible suffering of the Italian civilian population, as well as the heroism of the resistance, including Paola Del Din, trained by the Special Operations Executive and dropped by parachute to carry out her mission in support of the Allies 80 years ago today. I know that we are all thinking of Paola, now 101, on this day, and salute her courage.
Allow me to also express our deepest gratitude to the many hundreds of brave Italian civilians who provided shelter to British and Allied soldiers, thus putting their very own lives at risk.
Today, sadly, the echoes of those times, which we fervently hoped had been consigned to history, reverberate across our continent. Our younger generations could now see in the news every day on their smartphones and tablets that peace is never to be taken for granted. Britain and Italy stand today united in defense of the democratic values we share. Our countries have both stood by Ukraine in her hour of need and welcomed many thousands of Ukrainians requiring shelter. Our armed forces stand side by side in NATO. We are grateful beyond measure for the role Italy plays in hosting key NATO bases and taking a leading role in so many overseas operations. In just a few weeks' time, the Royal Navy's Carrier Strike Group, led by the aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales, will exercise alongside Italian forces in the Mediterranean, a powerful symbol of our cooperation. So too is our project to build our next generation fighter aircraft together through the Global Combat Air Programme alongside Japan. It will generate thousands of jobs in our countries and speaks volumes about the trust we place in each other. We work closely together in the G7, as we did during your G7 presidency last year, whose ministerial meetings set a new record for energy and activism. Just as we stand together in defense of our values, so too we stand together in defense of our planet. From the droughts in Sicily to the floods in Somerset, both our countries are already seeing the ever more damaging effects of climate change. The last time I spoke in this Parliament building was to a special meeting devoted to climate change. I can hardly believe it is 16 years ago now. So, I hope you will forgive me for saying that the warnings I offered then about the urgency of the climate challenge are depressingly being borne out by events. Extreme storms, normally seen once in a generation, now characterize every year. Countless precious plant and animal species face extinction in our lifetimes. So much is at stake. Italy's own natural heritage is blessed with extraordinary riches. Indeed, Italy remains home to the highest number of animal species in Europe. Perhaps Rome's greatest poet, Virgil, understood profoundly the respect that was due to nature. He was, it might be said, the father of sustainable farming, a cause I have supported my whole life. In his Georgics, he spoke about respecting the natural cycles of the land, the importance of pollination by bees, soil conservation, and even the value of composting and organic matter. For example, this from a well-known Italian translation of Book 1.
Do not be ashamed to saturate the arid soil with rich dung. So with changes of crop, the land can rest. And then the untilled earth is not ungrateful.
So it is deeply encouraging to see both our countries working together to tackle biodiversity loss and to cut emissions. I can only applaud Italian entrepreneurs for their pioneering achievements, from the world's first geothermal power plant to the first nationwide rollout of smart meters. Earlier today, I was delighted to meet with Italian and British business leaders whose collaboration, innovation, and investment in clean growth are so vital to our energy transition. Upon their success, all our futures depend. Ladies and gentlemen,
at the center of all that which I have described is a common denominator, a unifying theme. Our greatest resource, our citizens.
And especially our young people, who are adding piece by piece to the intricate mosaic that makes up the relationship between our countries. Much of that is thanks to over 450,000 Italians who make their home in the United Kingdom, across Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England, as well as to the tens of thousands of British citizens who live across Italy and the millions who visit in each direction. We are inordinately proud of the fact that London is the city with the highest number of Italians living overseas. Our business ties are flourishing, from green power to life sciences, from aerospace to services. The UK is the 5th largest investor in Italy, and last year Italy was the UK's 6th largest source of foreign direct investment projects, figures which speak for themselves. Our cultures continue to have a huge impact on each other. Tomorrow I look forward to seeing this in Ravenna, where Byron is remembered fondly alongside Dante, and to seeing the wonderful Byzantine mosaics of that beautiful city. Where 200 years ago we sent poets, today we delight in each other's music. whether it is the wonder of Italian opera at Covent Garden or Ed Sheeran at the Stadio Olimpico. Ladies and gentlemen, Italy will always be at my heart, just as my beloved mother never forgot her wonderful 25th birthday at Tivoli in 1951, or her stop in Capaci many years later in 1992, where she paid tribute just days after his murder to your legendary anti-mafia prosecutor, Giovanni Falcone. He must have been a remarkable man, Falcone.
La cerimonia è terminata. I gentili ospiti
It's a joke.
Signore e signori,
Ladies and gentlemen, our two countries are at the extreme end of the European continent. Ours is a collection of islands that are windswept. Yours, a peninsula that is sun-kissed.
and I'm nearly finished.
E mi avvio a conclusione.
That those differences complement each other rather well. That has been true in centuries past, and it is emphatically true today. Let that be the spirit in which our two nations come together to approach the future. Fiduciosi che quello.
Let us be confident that whatever challenges and uncertainties we inescapably face as nations on our continent and beyond, now and in the future, that we will indeed be able to overcome them together, and we shall do so together. And after having done just that, we will be able to say with Dante, and thence we came forth to re-behold the stars. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
La cerimonia è terminata. I gentili ospiti.
The ceremony is now over. I would like to ask our guests to please remain seated so as to allow Your Majesties, the President of the Chamber of Deputies and the President of the Senate of the Italian Republic to leave.